Welcome to the Dance to Heal podcast. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. Join me as I share stories of how life is a dance. I'm a cancer survivor, mother of two, and an award-winning performer who found that mind and body-connected movement is vital to healing in a way that is safe and tailored to your life. I created Dance to Heal Wellness featuring the Spotlight Confidence Formula and also authored the best-selling award-winning book, Outside In Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I will bring new ways to help you on your dance journey and healing path. Are you ready to move? Dance to Heal starts now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dance to Heal podcast. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen, and today we have the effervescent Amelia Mosher. Now, she and I were classmates in this amazing program. This episode is going to launch. We will both be practitioners, and before I get started, I want to make sure you put in your brain either to come back to this descriptor of this episode and click onto Amelia's website, which I'm going to say to you right now. I think it's the coolest website. It's called inspiredbythewild.life. So inspired, INSPIREBYTHEWILD.LIFE. Now here's the thing. This is very apropos. Amelia loves and is very passionate about healing through connection with nature. And I can tell you myself, it was a huge, huge factor in my cancer treatment and in my recovery. And so without further ado, please welcome Amelia. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jenny. This is such a pleasure.
All right. So listen, why nature? What is it about nature? Because here's the thing. I grew up from poverty. Like, we were peasants in southern Taiwan. And I actually am quite triggered on some parts of nature. So I had to really address that. At the same time, I love nature. I just don't like the creepy crawlies and the sand in my butt. Like, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
What is it about nature? Like, we have nature background right now, you know?
Yeah.
So you on YouTube, y'all can see we have the moving beach picture. If you're on audio, please come to the YouTube channel and look at this. It looks like we're on a retreat somewhere together. But why nature, Amelia? What is it about nature that's so magical?
I could answer that in so many ways, but for the sake of business, I think I want to take it all the way back to young me, who was probably 10 years old. I grew up in Alaska, and so I do also relate to the shadow side of nature. For me, it was bears, most grizzly bears, legitimately. And most kids grew up with their parents telling them, there's no such thing as monsters. But I grew up with the don't leave our sight. Your dad brought the rifle, so make sure that you stay nearby. So there was, we were very much part of the food chain. And so I have also had a lot of processing to do with what that really means. But to answer your question for the sake of business, young me was always an entrepreneur, and I would hot glue seashells onto, earring backs, little baskets. I got more and more industrial, and I asked my dad to make little wooden boxes, and I would glue shells onto those, and I would bring them in my wagon down to the dock, and I would ambush the tourists, who were arriving there on the cruise ships. I would jump out and, present my wares, and that's where I got my start. And to this day, seeing people see the wild and experience it for the first time, possibly in that way, and just what that look on their face. I mean, I could get emotional right now because it's that. And it's that I think we all need to have that perspective, and that it's when you are connected to something, you care about preserving it. And when you feel like you're a part of it, you're a part of something bigger, and that can be community, So to answer your question about, creating community, sometimes that looks like an ecosystem, in the wild.
Oh, I love that. I love that too, because
Thank you.
nature is a living organism, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And
And a teacher.
and teacher. and a teacher.
Yeah.
When we talk about, for me, if I, when I'm present, I can feel the energy and vibration when I'm in nature. It's so different than when we're in the city or at home. Even like inside, like my RV, because we have too many pets to actually ever have like a second home somewhere. So we invested in the RV so we could travel without our pets.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And the inside of my RV feels different when we're packing it up and when we're in a campsite that's surrounded by concrete versus when we're in a campsite, we're like in the middle of, a national park. It just feels different. Even though I'm in the same container, the vibration
Hmm.
feels different. I can always, even if I don't open the windows,
Yeah,
it feels different.
absolutely. Absolutely. And just while you were talking, what intuitively came to mind, I feel like is a perfect connection for how we met, which is, through the somatics class. And when I first found somatics and started to experience the rocking and in real time got to feel my nervous system relax and feel safe in my body. I want to say for the first time, but actually, um, what that feeling reminded me of was in a previous chapter of my life when it was time for me to move back to Alaska and spend time with family. And I did that by loading up my vehicle, driving up to Bellingham, putting the vehicle on the ferry. And for about 4 days, I was on this ferry in the open ocean, and this rocking was happening. And at first, I didn't understand why I slept so good. And what it physically in my body started to remind me of was this something I hadn't thought about in a long time, but actually my first home, coming home from the hospital, just a brand new newborn baby, first home was a float house. And that's that's my family story there. So my parents couldn't necessarily take me out in the car to get me to fall asleep. They would take me out in the boat to, just kind of go circles around the float house. And that's how they told me they would get me to fall asleep. And that's the memory that came to me, sort of like came into my mind because of the rocking sensation in my body. And I remember making that connection then, but I didn't really have anything to do with it other than just take note of it until fast forward years later. And, one of the first things that we learn in somatics, I know I don't have to tell you this, but the rocking, how it engages this bilateral stimulation. And now, a lot of us think of that with rocking from our parent, but rocking on the ocean, so again, it's like that connection, the healing power in nature. And I immediately, after I made that connection, I was like, that's it, I'm sold. This is deep, primitive, powerful, raw, something magic that we're tapping into here. And I am so here for it. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. What I really loved about the somatics that we're now serving to the community. Before I forget, y'all, Amelia was kind enough to give us a coupon for her services. So when you go to Inspired by the Wild.life, her coupon DANCE DANCE 26 gets you 26% off of all of her things. That's like so generous, sweetie. Thank you so much. And take use of it. I've done practice sessions with Amelia back in 2025, and they're really helpful, folks. There's nothing wrong if you want to do the app, which is amazing, but they're all pre-recorded versus we're working with a live somatic instructor. Okay, and then remember, I've told you before in the previous episodes, my danceandheal.com gift has shifted in 2026. So make sure you utilize that one. Is the gifts on that link will probably shift every few months. Make sure you take use of, because Amelia even has a 30-minute free call with her. Sometimes you just need to have a conversation with someone. If you're familiar, my repeat customers on the web on this podcast, if you're familiar with me teaching you about muscle testing, stop right now and muscle test. Do I need to take advantage of Amelia's coupon? No harm, no foul. If the answer is no, then just follow away from someone who may need it, okay? And if it's yes, go do that link right now in the description and book a call with her so you can use a coupon for other services. Back to our topic. Sorry, Amelia.
No, I
Back from
love
our
that.
commercial break. Yeah,
Yes,
because
thank you.
I,
Well,
I
and oh, sorry. I want to just add that the coupon code was, of course, inspired by you. So
thank
I wanted to
you,
give you
thank
credit.
you.
Yeah.
I've noticed a profound change in myself because in doing the work, oftentimes, since I started really starting coaching in 2020, I was always coaching, but I really didn't hang out my shingle as a coach,
Mhm.
other than being a dance coach or a performance coach or like actual gymnastics coach for my kids when they were junior Olympians. For me, it's been this realization that oftentimes I would have coaches I signed big money for, Amelia, that weren't doing the healing themselves. And I would say this is one of the few certifications I have. I have many, few certifications I have that is of someone who this is her life's work. She physically does these things and has seen a difference. And then I felt a shift in myself because that's part of our study to become certified somatics practitioners and be able to serve the community. What shifts have you noticed in yourself since doing this work? I mean, you're a great teacher, folks. She's amazing. You really want to
Aw,
use of her sessions.
thank
However,
you.
like on another level, like I never knew, Amelia, how triggered I usually was when I woke up in the morning. So the somatics 10-minute wake up is a part of my non-negotiable morning routine. What about you for yourself?
I love that you have the discipline to do that every morning. And you actually are the one who suggested that to me and have inspired me to just really take note of the differences that I have noticed and make sure to stick with that. Because if there's one thing about my self care that I struggle with, it's the consistency. I can have all of these amazing things, but staying consistent with it, regardless of how well it serves me. So I love, that you reiterated that for me because, in truth, I have noticed absolutely hands down, undeniable changes, and it's interesting because I would say physically, one of the first things that happened, which I hoped was going to happen. So I came into the exercises hoping to release some chronic pain in my hip. And I have a metal plate in that same ankle on the same side. And I had tried everything to release the pain in my ankle. And so I was starting to surrender essentially to the fact that because I have the problem in my ankle, this hip problem is here to stay. And when on day 30, or excuse me, day 8 of the 30-day program, I had an emotional release, which led to a physical release. When that happened, and I finally recovered from my intense cry, like the cry to end all cries. When I finally got through it, I don't even know how long it lasted. Maybe it was 2 minutes, maybe it was 20 minutes. It was timeless. But when I stood up, I noticed that that pain in my hip was gone. And that sharp stabbing pain that was really causing a serious limitation in my mobility. I had been working with children and I couldn't even sit cross-legged on the floor with them. And that's unacceptable to me. I wasn't ready to just kind of surrender to old age in that way due to this, you know, strange abstract pain. Like, where did it even come from? And that was the moment, even though I have studied the mind body connection and I've had so much other, that moment just sealed the deal for me because to be able to cry it out, to, after just doing these 20-minute exercises from bed, laying down, for days, 8 days in a row, and having such a significant change. That was the first time that I realized I was really onto something powerful. And so I stuck with it. And I did notice a lot of long-term shifts that now that I've had more than a year of living with these shifts, now I can see how much integration and how much this process has really changed my life. Absolutely, hands down, without a doubt. And one of the first things that happened was I was inspired to chase my dream of becoming an herbalist. So I signed up for a course, and I was just getting into that when, Liz announced that there was going to be a teacher training and there was no way to afford it, but I somehow ended up manifesting the money to be able to do that. And suddenly, just my whole life started to change in this direction of so much purpose and momentum. And then, when we finally started to, when we crossed paths, it was just about at that point when we were, going to start the student teacher, training, that like just kind of practicing being a teacher with this and seeing this work for other people, even when I was maybe not at my best with teaching, just as a beginner.
She thou dost protest too much.
Well, thank
Amelia's
you.
very hard on herself, y'all, just so you know. Like we all are. Like we're so generous to everybody else but ourselves. Anywho, sorry, continue.
Well, I appreciate that. And, actually have to credit you again here too, that, Jenny is the one that taught me about, the muscle testing. And she is the one that convinced me to just give it a try. And it turns out that, she's right. I am very hard on myself. And she's the one that, really helped me move forward in the process of, I emailed, I'm working on getting my test date. So you'll be very proud of me. You were a big part of that. And, I'm just glad that we connected, because honestly, the accountability, has really made a difference in just moving this process forward. So, and now, when I want to give us both credit in something magical and unexpected, because you had done a muscle test about which practice session we were going to do. And it was into the future. We didn't know what was going to be happening in our lives when, so I was going to teach this session. And when the day came, it ended up being
Yeah.
the perfect exercise, the perfect set. And you chose that. And when I realized what I was teaching, and then you told me how effective it was, again, it was another one of these moments of just what is not only what what Somatics is capable of, but our collaborative effort, our combined intention, that this is something that's going to be important at this time. And it was, for reasons that we couldn't have necessarily foreseen.
Exactly. And so here's the thing. So audience members, I want you to remember that Amelia and I were open to asking our bodies for answers, because our bodies hold all the answers. Our bodies are the only entities that were with us since birth. And they also are connected energetically. We're connected energetically through our subconscious to basically everyone in the world. So sometimes when you ask your body questions, you're drawing from this worldwide network of knowledge, kind of like nature is connected. Trees are connected to their roots. We're connected that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when we were first meeting, Amelia and I, about because we had like 12 lessons we could choose from, and I was like, well, which one should I do? And you had requested the later ones, so I was just systematically asking my body, well, which one should I do first with Amelia? And I went through the numbers, and it was like number 9 or 8 or 10 or something like that, and that was an affirmative yes, like do this one, not knowing that day something would happen that was pretty catastrophic to our family. And I had so much rage going into the session with Amelia that the somatic exercise helped me gain some equilibrium. Because here's the thing, when you have rage in your body, and I talk about this in my book about the rage of getting cancer, or for most of all of us who are still here, minus the newborns, babies that were born after 2020, we all have the rage of the pandemic, of the panini, about that happening in our lifetime for whatever reasons, or however close or far it affected us personally. There is a collective rage, and we have to address those feelings. They have to be released. They have to be recognized. And so this session, I think we have to go through systematic with you all, but like this is something we had never given permission to address. Like the past me, Amelia, were just pretending nothing was wrong and then damaged myself because I never released the rage about what had happened.
I just want to give another moment of silence for that, because of how many of us have had to do that to as a survival mechanism, to get to this point. But in the past, I've worked in a role where I was an addiction counselor, and I would tell people, because there's a lot of shame in a lot of that. And that was one of the biggest walls that I needed to break down in order to really be effective to working with someone, and said, I just want to commend you for doing what you had to do to survive. And now look at you, you're trying to find a better way. Bravo, bravo. And so it doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as you're on that path.
I love that. I love that reminder. Audience members, you hear this? We're acknowledging the work and the effort and how hard you had to work to get to today. Mm-hmm. If you're on audio, go to the YouTube. We're staring at you right now, my friend. You must recognize that. And you have to give yourself that credit, even if you don't feel like you deserve it, because it's super essential. In somatics work, we talk about how your nervous system, for most of us, is really just fried. It's fried. Even if you give the persona, you have everything. If you were really by yourself, would you really be what you put out to the world? I would say realistically, and say not me if this is not you, because I'm not trying to program anyone. Realistically, I would say at least 90% of us don't have that peace that we pretend to have when we're out in public. And I think that's a birthright, isn't it, Amelia?
Absolutely. And I want to add, or I want to sort of, how do I say this? It's our nervous systems, our bodies. I want to reinforce the strength and the importance behind what you're saying. Us getting here to this point where we can do better. Survival mode required that we push a lot of our trauma down into our body. And that's been one of the most powerful lessons that, again, so much of my training, and regardless of what I've studied and I know in theory, learning it through my body has been a completely different, humbling experience. Your face, I know. And so what I want to just reinforce is that this organism, and we're lucky for it, but it's very effective at being able to store trauma somewhere deep down into the body so that you can keep moving and doing what you need to do and doing what you need to do and doing what you need to do. And eventually, if you keep storing it in your body, it corrodes there, it rots there, and it just leads to so many problems, so much illness. I mean, that could be a whole podcast in and of itself. And so that was a whole other piece that I did not realize during this, process of doing these somatic exercises, going deep, and basically just detoxing, pulling out years and years of, without even realizing it, and actually having thought that I had done the work up until this point, and going in there and being like, I cannot believe how much is in my body, is stored in my body. That was very humbling. And because these types of things that are stored in the body are not necessarily accessible through the mind. And so all of that top down approach, talk therapy, all of these things, it's not to discount that. However, when you go down and you get into that stuff that's been stored in your body, that's been all the stuff that's been allowed to basically get away. It's been living in the shadows, being able to run amok and do whatever. And that you're going to really encounter, the big ones there. And so my message is, yes, go into this, but I also want to say that it's very, very powerful stuff. And for me, that's when my herbal piece came in, because I got to a point where so much was coming up. And I was experiencing a lot of intrusive memories. And that's what made me realize how effectively I had stored and just pushed so much down. And it was a lot. And I got to this point where I was wondering if I could even continue. And suddenly I realized, wait, hold up. I'm an herbalist. I should be able to just like, let me call on my plant friends for this. And I just got a big bundle of fresh lemon balm and just smelling it right away, immediately. Just aromatherapy is one of the fastest ways. The olfactory, the part that registers scent, is right next to the amygdala, which, connects with emotions. Oh, jump in here. I can tell you want to get in here.
No, keep going. I'm just, folks, just my YouTube people know that I will mute because I have many pets and people,
Oh,
and they make random noises. So my audio people, you don't see me visually nodding, going and then people think I'm talking, but I'm just cheering the person on in the background, going
love it.
amen. But I don't want to take away like I just did, so I mute myself. Go ahead. You were saying lemon balm
Oh,
stimulates
I
the
love it.
olfactory and the amygdala.
Yes. And, so it was just, I, that's the path of leading back to, the holistic practitioner, and just being able to practice what we preach. And a lot of what I realized when I, without intentionally doing so, grabbed both of these two things, these tools, this herbalism and the somatics, right about the same time in my life. I hadn't realized it, but that was for me the path back into my body. And that was absolutely unequivocal. It was ineffably invaluable. And I will even say, to again answer your question, some of the things that, what have you noticed? My weight has been shifting. The way that my body mechanics have shifted. Like ankle issues. I mentioned that earlier, but just with the redistribution after releasing my psoas muscle, this is my natural hair color. I don't understand why I don't have silver hair anymore, but and then when we heard that this like exercise, like releasing all this cortisol, it has the power to basically age in reverse. And then suddenly I was like, well, that's why. That's why. And you know what? I don't want to dye my hair now. I feel like this is kind of a flex. I'm like, the proof is in the pudding. I did the work. And it's not that it was not at all why I did the work. I didn't know to expect this. But at one point I was like, well, heck, I was used to having to put in highlights over the years, which I said was camouflaging my silver. And then when it came time to, I'm like, heck, 6 years has gone by, or excuse me, 6 years, 6 months, and my highlights are growing out and I don't see the silver. And, then there was all this conversation about how, and I'm in my mid 40s at this point. So I found my first silver hair at age 26. If it just went chronologically, and if it wasn't connected to stress and cortisol, well, then I would be fully crone silver by now. And I have nothing against that. I can't wait for that to happen, to finally, when I'm ready,
Yes.
when I'm ready.
Yes.
But
Well, listen, to tie this right back to the whole nature, how important it is, we are nature. Audience members, we're nature. And why aren't we also utilizing the way nature uses certain movements to release tension? Like, I have lots of pets. When my dog thinks that she's done something bad and she needs to release the stress of like disappointing her owner, she shakes from head to toe and releases that tension. When a baby kitten is learning to walk and falls flat on its face, it actually shakes itself to take off the stress. We don't do that. When they cut a tree and look at the rings of age, they can tell when there was drought, the silver years of the tree, versus when the tree was really, really healthy, and so the ring is thicker. So let yourself have permission to have answers through your body, and then reconnect with nature. So it's a concurrent growth. It's like our birthright to have nature. Like, even though it was like you had bears and I just had abandonment with abusive wife beating grandfather. Possible essay.
no, I can relate to a lot of that too.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah.
We didn't have bears in southern Taiwan. We had predators of different kinds.
Mm-hmm.
However, joking aside, right? There are modalities out there. Audience members, I'm so pleased that Amelia could come in and discuss a little bit about and share with you her own transformation. I've had a client that I did a quantum change process with, and she's full silver haired, and she started growing an inch back of dark, dark hair after the QCP 3 months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
it.
So it's pretty interesting. Our bodies will show you when you're healing. I mean, even our coach for the somatic exercises talks about the glow you get when you start to release your trauma. That is accessible to you, audience. So, Amelia, I think you just have to come back and we have to have a part 2 of this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah? Great.
I love it.
Great. So remember to go and get your gift from Amelia and her coupon of the Dance 26 at inspiredbythewild.life, and then go to mydanceandheal.com gift. Happy New Year. Asian New Year's coming soon. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Dance to Heal podcast with Jenny C. Cohen. Come back next time to hear stories of inspiring triumph and learn more ways that you can heal yourself. To work with me and continue your journey, visit danceandheal.com. Are you ready to move?